Welcome at the Things Conference. We're back with another guest from the conference. And who are you and what do you do?
So my name's Alasdair, Allan, and I play with toys for a living.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic living.
I sort of sit in the middle between big data, machine learning, embedded hardware, distributed sensor networks, and mobile, and I do build things between these. I try and bridge the different disciplines.
Right. So we're here at the Things Conference, which is mostly about LoRa and LoRaWAN, things like that. So what is your relationship with that?
So I've been doing a lot of work with large-scale distributed sensor networks, mostly using XBs and cellular. And over the last year or two, I've been looking towards trying to move this over towards LoRa as the obvious solution. So I'm here to try and figure out exactly how to do that.
Because you're still in the process of finding this out. So what problems are you running into?
At the moment, it's hardware and software availability. It's getting the hardware is still a little bit shaky, so it's not robust enough to deploy it in actual fields. And where fields I'm talking about, big fields of corn and that sort of thing. So it's getting there, but like the hardware is still a bit shaky.
So it's basically the hardware. So software is good enough?
I think the Things Network new stack, the V3, is going to make a big difference. There's a lot of stuff there that I've been needing, which is private, public, cloud network pairing, for instance. The peering stuff is very important. So yeah, the next stack is probably the stack that can go into production.
So what does the new next stack need for you? I mean, to make it perfect for you?
So the peering is absolutely necessary to peers between private and public networks, and I think a lot of people are waiting for that before they roll out large scale networks.
So you're trying things out, and but sometimes you must think about the application for all these kind of things. So what sort of applications?
I'm trying to talk around my NDAs here, so I can't really talk about what I'm doing with it, unfortunately.
Okay, I understand that, but let's talk then about other applications that you're not involved in that you think that are pretty impressive or are a good example of where the space is heading.
So I was looking at the wall of LoRaWAN outside. So at the conference we had, there's this massive wall of devices, and one of the things I did see there was, I believe it's here in Amsterdam, it's a mashup between the IoT and AR, which I thought was an absolutely fascinating application. It's a little white box with a QR code, and you just point your phone at it, and it goes to the website, and then suddenly you have an AR overview, overlay on top of the box. And I thought it was an absolutely fascinating way to expose data into the world. I mean, one of the problems with the IoT is that it's very screen orientated right now. We have a thing, we have an app, and then we have a cloud service that talks to both of them. And this way of exposing the data without actually having an app, without having to access a cloud service or a login, I thought was absolutely fascinating.
So for further developments, if you look at the IoT space, what are the new challenges that needs to be tackled to move forward?
Security.
Again.
The data that the IoT will generate is far more sensitive than the data that we're putting online. While the digital internet, the other internet, has our home address or like our credit card numbers or other things, that these can all generally be fixed. It's like they can be protected, or we can move or something. The data the IoT will stream is real time. It's location, it's galvanic skin response, it's heart rates, it's really personal data, because they'll be from wearables or things that have direct line of sight. And I think the privacy implications of that are far more wide-reaching than that we've seen already on the internet, which was bad enough. And the internet has had problems with security. We know that the security on the internet is awful, and that's because it wasn't designed in from the start, because at that time, no one really thought about it. And we have to have the discussion about IoT privacy and IoT security now, because if we don't design it in from the start, it's going to be a disaster.
That was exactly what came to mind, because I asked this question to a couple of other people these days as well. I mean, when the internet was designed, nobody was thinking about all these kind of things.
No,
and
it was
so are we going to fix this now? And is there enough awareness around the subject that like the Alliance, etc., are they working on ways to really get developers and hardware manufacturers to create security by design?
I think it's not there yet, but again, I was talking about hardware a minute ago, and it's coming. Secure chips directly from the factory that have public-private keys embedded in there, third-party joint servers that have these registered, so that you can have security directly out of the box. And I think that's absolutely vital. But that's coming. It's not there yet, but it is coming, and we all know it's coming. So that's going to be useful. That's going to be very reassuring. But it really does sit on the backs of developers to design security in from the start. I mean, the problems we've seen with the IoT, which at this point has laughably bad security, is mostly down to rush to get to market. A lot of the startups are doing a prototype, or even a lot of the larger companies, like large multinationals, do their prototype, and then they put it in a pretty box and they ship it, instead of rebuilding it properly. So the quick mashup the dev put together to get out the door, like, look, boss, we can do this, it all works, suddenly becomes the final product, which is an awful way to build anything. You have to let the developers go back and put in security from the start.
One other thing that sometimes comes up when we talk about the internet, or the traditional internet, is recently again, is net neutrality. If
Yes.
we talk about roaming and peering, etc., is that a subject that is being addressed properly already?
So this is one of the things I talked about today, actually. I talked about the history of the other internet, the one we currently have, and community networks and other such things around the 60s and the 70s. And how that has implications for how we develop the IoT today. And yes, I think you're actually seeing a resurgence of community-built networks right now on the other internet around issues. And these issues are privacy, and these issues are net neutrality. You're seeing a lot of community-built networks in rural areas where right now the internet is not being properly distributed because the larger corporations don't have a good enough return on investment to lay fiber or microwave links. So at one part of rural America, like the Midwest, they're actually using the barbed wire between fields to run broadband signals, which I thought was hilarious, but also absolutely ingenious. So yeah, you're seeing an emergence of these community networks, which had really gone away for a number of years, and they're coming back. So yes, I think people are concerned about net neutrality.
So what's your take on it?
Net neutrality? It has to, it's if we get rid of net neutrality, we kill the internet. It's as simple as that. It has to be a fundamental principle of how the network works, because we would never have had any number of things that we have and we use every day on the internet if we didn't have net neutrality, because they would never have got started.
Totally agree, but and how would you see that for the IoT space?
You see, that's an interesting argument I don't think anyone's had yet. I mean, right now, the neutrality of packets is built into, I think, all of the standards. Except it's built in by assumption, I think. I don't think there's anything explicitly says in any of the standards that all packets will be treated equally.
Because I can imagine that there will be a situation where a customer is demanding some sort of a quality of service, or a government will say this is life-threatening if it's not delivered on time, or there's no 100% guarantee, and so how are we going to deal with that?
And I think that is going to be network peering. That's going to be private networks that that you can prioritize packets, you can guarantee quality of service, and then peering to the public networks. So I think very much if you want quality of service, if you want guaranteed delivery, you have to build your own network. It's as simple as that.
Basically the same as we've seen with the old internet,
Yes.
because it's Facebook has its own internet basically on top of the internet.
Yeah.
So you have different layers of. So is there any other developments that you see that are interesting from your point of view? Because you got a very broad perspective on outside LoRa as well. So what kind of mesh networks, connections, integrated services do you see?
One of the most interesting things I'm seeing right now is the moving of machine learning to the edge. So you have the Intel Movidius chip, for instance, which is advertised as a VPU, a visual processing unit, which lets you actually do deep learning on an embedded system. There's a couple of others on sale now. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. Thinker chip, I think, is coming out of China, for instance. We're also seeing TensorFlow being run on reasonably small footprint systems of the order of Raspberry Pi. And I think that movement out of the cloud, moving the machine learning out of the cloud, will have a real fundamental effect on the way the IoT works. I think it'll level off, make everything far flatter, go to a more peer-to-peer model than we've previously seen, which has been very much a vertically integrated thing, cloud model.
And also that the debate about having more intelligence to put on the sensor instead of in the back end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, moving the intelligence to the sensor lets you access the data in far more granular detail, and you can, in many cases, than you can push into the cloud. If you have 1 million sensors, you might not have the network bandwidth. You will almost certainly not have the network bandwidth to push all the data into the cloud for real-time analysis. If you do the analysis in real time on the sensors, or at least further towards the edge, then different things are possible.
Absolutely. So there's going to be a next conference next year, I suppose, and you will be probably here, maybe.
Yeah, if they run another one next year, I'm definitely coming back. It's
Right.
been a fascinating look into an emerging network standard.
So, and apart from security, what would be a main subject that the conference should be about?
I think there is going to be a lot of discussion around how networks interact. I think part of the formation of the internet was the merging together of separate networks. It's the thing that makes it inter, after all. BitNet, ARPANET, the UK's Janet network. When these connected up, it let you move a bigger lever on the world than just having individual networks. And up until now, the IoT has been nothing of the sort. There's been no inter in the internet. It's just been networked. Most IoT systems are in walled gardens. They can't even talk to themselves sometimes. And when you connect these together, I think the actual ubiquity, because I mean the IoT was originally ubiquitous computing. That was the academic name for it 10 years ago or so. And getting from here to there is a big step. It will involve getting our networks to talk to each other.
All right.
So I think that is a really important big step.
Well, let's see if we can get Winke to get this addressed at the next conference. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. This was one of the many interviews we recorded during the Things conference. There's many more in our YouTube channel, so watch them all.